Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, the 31st of December, New Year's Eve. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm actually up at a decent hour on my own without an alarm clock and feeling good, which is kind of surprising because 9 times out of 10, if I wake up on my own, I am not all that great. Today, for some reason, I am. Maybe it's the excitement and looking forward to the factor that tomorrow is the new year, and there's a lot of big plans and a lot of desires for a better year. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, folks. My brain, surprisingly, as awake as I am, or as much sleep as I got, is like actually firing on all cylinders and reminding myself of things that I said I was going to do last night. I do work today. I'm supposed to work 4 to 8. Our store closes at 8. The thing is, last night I went in and it was dead for most of the evening, and then it got busy, then it died down again. And because of labor being kind of on the high side, I got sent home early. Now, we don't have any catering orders to deal with. So if there's anything that happens tonight, it's going to be last minute requests for barbecue and whatnot, which it's kind of strange because most people, it's either they're going to do their barbecuing earlier in the daytime, or for the most part, it's going to be like sub sandwiches, quick foods, quick easy stuff. And there's supposed to be 4 of us tonight. And we were talking about it last night, and the 4th guy wasn't there last night, but we were talking about it, and the one guy said he was gonna, if he could, he's gonna slip out early because he's gonna meet up with a bunch of friends for New Year's Eve, which is kind of like, okay, sure, if it's dead, I'm pretty sure 3 of us can handle it. But if it's extremely dead, I'm probably going to send the other kid home early, because why not? I'd rather keep them there and let labor go up high just to have a third person help clean up. But if it's dead the whole night, it's going to be easy because I know myself and Randy, who's the new GM, will keep the store clean. That's one thing I do like about Randy, is the factor that he likes to keep things as clean as possible, which makes it easier to close because if everything's cleaned out in the lobby and whatnot, all we have to worry about is the behind the counter type stuff, our cold sides, our hot sides, and cleaning up the board and then doing the floor. I've never had to clean the board, and Randy last night was doing the board pretty good. So if Randy's doing the board fairly well, maybe he'll be the one on the board tonight. I'll be on register, and the 3rd kid, and I call him kid because he's early 20s, mid to early 20s, and to me that's a kid because it's 20 years younger than I am. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight. Granted, we'll all be off and home before the dropping of the ball and whatnot, and Mom won't care. Mom won't care about the dropping the ball, and for me, I'm just kind of like, I'm not having a party. I'm not with family. I'm not with friends. I'm not going to be doing a lot. So if I fall asleep before midnight, I fall asleep before midnight. Ooh. Breathe, Jim, breathe. Now, the funny thing about last night was I didn't fall asleep until after 2. I know that much because I looked at the clock and went, oh my God, it's 2 o'clock. I need to go to sleep. I was in my room for a good hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'm kind of like, great. I can either stay up and watch the ball drop in the bedroom, or I can go to sleep early. Now, Thankfully, it's not as bad as New York, where people go outside and make a whole bunch of noise and honk their horns and all that fun jazz. I don't remember them doing that last year. I don't do it no more. We used to do it in New York just because that was the thing to do. It's like, what the heck for? Wake up your neighbors? Some people might have to get up and go to work in the morning time, for crying out loud. Thankfully, I have Friday off, even though I've been forewarned I might have to come in. Which is fine by me. It gives me more money in my bank. It just means that my project of the day might get pushed back or wait until later on in the day if I'm not tired. I was going to do some last night, but I got home and I was just like, I don't feel like it. I was a little upset because I had to come home early. I was tired because of the fact I just bored. Not tired as in physical tired from labor or tired because I didn't get enough sleep the night before. It's more like boredom. Now, I had a comment from one of you guys this morning that I read and went, yeah, you're right. One of the reasons why I have a hard time dealing with stuff is because of the fact that I'm just overwhelmed. That's true. I get overwhelmed by the fact that I go into a room that I'm supposed to clean and go, why do we have so much stuff? Yeah, okay, I grew up in a minimalist lifestyle because of the military. You can only basically take so much. You can only carry so much around with you. But yeah, I have my issues with being a minimalist. I just realized I think I got a block on my calendar here that says New Year's Eve. I know I got one that says New Year's Day, but no, just New Year's. Okay. Yeah. Come on, Jim, get it together. I know today's not New Year's, but I'm just gonna mark it as New Year's because it is the New Year's. Y'all know that I got a particular item from my mom for Christmas, the havamal, which is basically the North mythology or North wisdom of the Northmen. Can't get my words out right. And I'm not going to read you all 6 of what I read because that would take too much time. But I will give you a synopsis. And somebody asked me if there's a way I can compare it to Christianity. Yes, no. Christianity, the words are pretty much outright, while the havamal is more of like rhyming or like poems. There we go, poems. How poems are written. But what I have been able to glean from the havamal is pretty much the first 6 passages, or let me get my words right. Passage number 1 is more of a cautionary, be wary of strange things. Basically, it's trying to tell you that when you enter a new location or a new home or a new building, know your environment. Know what could be lurking around the corner. Now, you got to realize a lot of this was written back when the Norsemen had their enemies. Everybody had their enemies back then. But if you were to go to a new location, know your location. Know your environment. The other 5 after that one is more like, being a gracious visitor or being a gracious host, or, not being so boastful of your own knowledge. But it's more of like humbling yourself as a guest, while treating a guest with respect and giving them, warmth, shelter, and clothing. But it also states that if you have a guest who is unruly, basically just acting like a prat, that person could be basically unwelcomed whether you're the person or you're the guest or the host. If you as a guest act like ungrateful jackass, I'm gonna say the word jackass, you may not be welcome back there again, or you may not want to welcome that person back. But if they're a gracious guest, well-mannered, well-spoken, polite, you can, that kind of person would be welcomed back into a stranger's home or your home. Basically, what I've gathered is Christians, we're supposed to be open-hearted, open-minded, and giving of ourselves to those in need. And it's kind of like the same thing with the Norse people. If you know somebody who's in need, or there's a traveler who's in need, be a gracious person and open up your home to them. But at the same time, if they're going to be unruly or uncivil, that kind of activity or attitude as a guest is qualifying you as being no longer welcome. I know the Christians are supposed to be welcoming no matter what, but from what I've seen from most Christians, if you open your home up and then you start acting like a fool, most Christians won't tolerate that. Problem with the difference between the Norse and the Christians is factored not just their religion, but Norsemen will only tolerate so much foolishness if they're going to open up their home to you. Christians are basically taught to turn the other cheek and allow it to happen. I have difficulty with that because I'm gracious enough to open up my home to people. But if those people are going to be ungrateful or basically take advantage of my graciousness too far, that's when I draw the line. Because, look, I did not have to let you come into my house. I did not have to invite you into my house. I did not have to do anything to give you a place to stay and give you food off my table. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. I did it out of the graciousness of being a kind person. But you're gonna act like somebody who just is gonna take advantage of it? No, I'm sorry. That's when I draw the line. Now, the difference between the way the Hávamál is and the way the Bible is the fact that the Bible is written like a history textbook, while the Hávamál is written like poems. And most poems, if they're written just right, the words rhyme and they come out smoothly, even though sometimes they might not be fully understood because of the way they're worded. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read number 7 out of the Hávamál. And then I'll sit down and think about what it means afterwards, or I'll try to talk to you about it. But like I said, I cannot read the Old Norse language, so I skip over that because But each poem that's written in Old Norse has got 3 different translators, or 3 different people who make the translation. And I try to read all 3 and decide which one I can understand better. But let's see here. The first translation of this is, "Let the weary stranger who seeks refreshment keep silent with sharpened hearing. With his ears let him listen and look with his eyes. Thus each wise man spies out the way." Wow, that's pretty kind of straightforward, though. Let's see here. Number 2 is, "Away guess who..." Away guess who to reflect comes, keeps a cautious silence, Our wit is needful to him who travels far. Harm seldom befalls the weary. With his ears listen and with his eyes observe, to explore every prudent man. Now, that second one is probably translated verbatim to the original Norse language, because translating a lot of different languages into English is kind of difficult unless you want to just basically write it as is. Number 3 out of the translations is the knowing guest who goes to the feast in silent attention sits. With his ears he hears, with his eyes he watches. Less weary are wise men all. I like number 1 best. Sorry. The first translation best. But basically what I'm gathering just from reading this is just basically kind of wisdom of a traveler. Basically, a traveler will come to a feast. He will sit there silently and listen and watch the others around him, gaining knowledge of his environment, thus knowing how to communicate or what kind of conversations to strike up. That's my take. The Hávamál is basically designed not only just as a wisdom of old, but what I've already read from 7 passages, or 7 poems, or stanzas, however you want to put them, is it has nothing to do with what we consider the Norse people to be like. It has wisdom for traveling, for those who are travelers. It has wisdom on how to be a good person, how to listen and learn. And you got to realize back then it was basically a harsh environment. I don't mean just their climate and the environment of the lay of the land, but just living back then was harsh. I mean, you had to deal with the elements. You had to deal with making sure you had enough food. You had to make sure your home is in proper condition so you don't freeze out during the wintertime. A lot of the Norwegian, Scandinavian area that the Norsemen originated is a very harsh, mountainous, cold climate. They are the upper half of their country, the upper half of Norway and Scandinavia, are part of the Arctic Circle. So they're within the Arctic Circle, and yeah. They dealt with, almost like Alaska. If you've ever lived in Alaska, you kind of know what I'm talking about. They lived in a climate where it was 6 months of daylight and 6 months of nighttime. And during the winter months, or the night months, the dark months, however you want to call it, they spent their nights, even their days, their waking hours, watching the aurora borealis. Now that's probably pretty awesome. And then when they went out to do their raiding and whatnot, or to colonize new lands for better farming, better materials for their homes and whatnot, they had to cross a very rough and treacherous seas. And the only time that they could really do that without having too many problems is during the summer months, because the seas weren't as rough or as harsh or as treacherous. But still, by longboat back then, it probably took days, if not weeks, to cross the ocean to get to even the northern part of Scotland. And then you got to think about it. Those same boats is what they used to cross the North Atlantic to get to Iceland, then Greenland, and then America, which back then they called Vinland. You got to realize these were not just simple-minded people. These were strong, hardy, very, very well knowledgeable. I mean, for their time, their longboats was like the most advanced boat you can think of. I mean, yeah, down in the Mediterranean, you had the various cultures down there that had their boats, but their boats were not designed for not only just crossing the ocean, but the Viking boat was designed. It can cross the ocean, then it can sail up a river to get to the inner part of the country. Most boats back then could not do that. They would tear up the bottom of their boat, if not wreck it. But the Egyptian boats, the Egyptian boats probably could do the same thing as the Norse boats because they went up and down the Nile. But the Roman boats, the Spartan boats, the Greek boats, no, couldn't do that. That in fact, a lot of times some of those boats would keel over, topple over during a rough sea. Norse boats didn't fall over that easily. For all in all purposes, I mean, a lot of archaeologists will not say that the Norse longboat was more advanced than any other boat on the oceans and during that time. In fact, a lot of people believe that the Norse were more advanced in culture than a lot of the other different cultures of their time. I mean, yeah, that's going to be a bother. I mean, I love digging into history and whatnot. And so far, what I found out is, compared to a lot of the different cultures of the time, the Norse were not only the most feared, but they were also culturally advanced. Their military tactics, well, let's just put it this way. The Norsemen adopted a lot of their military tactics from the Romans. The shield wall, which was a Roman Mediterranean military tactic. But one of the tactics the Norsemen used the most that made most people fear the Norsemen when it came to an actual conflict was the fact that they were big. They were taller than most other cultures back then. They were aggressive. They were basically, they had their different parts like a military unit. They had the frontliners, which were usually the big, bulky guys that can basically take down just about anything that came at them. They had the defensive units, which were those who made the shield wall. They had their archers. And it's kind of funny because, I mean, back during the 800s, back during the history of the Norse people during their timeline, from the recorded histories of around the 800s to almost 1300s, the average human being maybe stood 4'5". Some of them were good enough to. Most of them were small, what we would consider midgets. Not trying to make fun of anybody. The average Norseman back then was anywhere from 5'5" to 6 foot tall. So the average Norseman to the average non-Norseman looked like a giant. I mean, they were big people. And I don't mean just big in bulk size. I mean big as in tall. It's been recorded. They're finding recordings and evidence that during the latter part of the Norse reign, when they started to basically become more Christian than pagan, I should say, it's been found in recorded history that a lot of the Arabian countries, especially like Turkey and whatnot, that had trade caravans going up the Silk Road to China, would hire Norse mercenaries to protect their caravans, because most people, when they saw a Norseman, and the fact that a Norseman wouldn't turn and run like most everybody else would turn and run from bandits. A Norseman would stand up like a challenge. I accept a challenge. And that's how a lot of the caravans from Turkey to China were protected. Because most raiders along that Silk Road, they might sound scary and whatnot, but when you have a big, tall, bulky white guy in the middle of the desert standing there like, where are you? Come and get me, you coward. Would not want to mess with that. I sure the heck wouldn't. Of course, I'd probably be one of the people standing there like, you're screaming and you're hollering, but you're not coming out of nowhere. But the history of the Norse is a very interesting history to me, because they started out as simple farmers in cold, harsh climate, eking a way of life or surviving. And yes, granted, until somebody discovered a way to cross the ocean and get to a new land rich in supplies and soil and gold, silver, whatever plunder that they could find, a lot of the Norse clans fought against each other just for territory. Well, you see that throughout history. A lot of the different clans or different groups had a lot of fighting for territory. Even here in America, the Native American people, they fought to keep their territory. They fought for territory. There was groups who would raid other tribes for various things, including people. And I don't mean slaves, I mean like women. But look throughout history. Every group, even in Britain, even in what is now the UK, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, China, even Japan had their warring clans fighting each other for supremacy. But it's the culture. It's not the, it's kind of interesting how when most people look at the Norse, they think of violent, brutish, barbaric marauders. Yet we go and look at China and Japan and think about their culture and their arts and all that make them interesting, and don't even think about, well, what about, you're telling me that there was no infighting, there was no conflict with each other. This part of China fought that part of China, this part of Japan fought the other part of Japan. Yeah, there was all kinds of fighting throughout their histories as well. But you don't see it because we see their bright, vibrant colors and whatnot. We don't even think about the culture or the aspect of who the Norse people were, other than Vikings. Vikings is not a noun. Norse is a noun. Norse is a people, a culture. Viking is a verb meaning basically loosely meaning pirate. They were literally the first pirates to be known. Then you have the actual pirates of the Caribbean, and I don't mean Johnny Depp. I mean actual pirates who raided other ships, shot them up, and either sank them or put them under submission so they can take whatever they were having, whatever treasures they may have been carrying. That's the whole point of piracy, is to take treasures of one form or another from another group of people. My hands are cold. Sorry, my house is warming up. We turn the heat down at nighttime because we're all in bed wrapped up in our nice warm blankets. But last few days it's been really cold outside, and my hands, I can't seem to get my hands to warm up. Anyhow, I will continue my studies and give you updates of what's going on that field. Tomorrow, excuse me, all of a sudden I got hiccups. Probably drank that last sip of water too fast. Tomorrow I have the day off unless I get called in, which I think I said that earlier. I am going to start in the dining room. Next week, it looks like I'll have 2 to 3 days off unless something happens. I got a text message this morning saying that they gave me an extra day because I was supposed to have 3 days off, but they gave me an extra day for Thursday, which is fine. I normally don't care what my hours are as long as I get to work. I look at my hours, I write them down, and I go, okay, so this is my times. But since I was basically forewarned this morning via text message that some of the hours have changed, I'm going to have to go in there and look and probably reorganize my schedule. I like having schedules. I like having an idea of what I'm working. That way I can plan around those schedules and plan my day out. But so far things have been good. Jerry Ann is still down visiting friends and family. Last night she told me they're headed back to Texas. They have been in Georgia and Florida last week. They're heading back into Texas tonight. Should be back there sometime later this evening. I'll probably be on the phone with her tonight when she gets back to Teja. She told me that she should be back in 10 days. That was yesterday, so 9 days from today. So that's about the 10th, 11th. I'm hoping I can keep the guest room ready. I mean, right now the only thing on the bed is stuff that I have to deal with, except for that. Goodness gracious. I have some of my stuff from the bedroom I gotta deal with. I don't even know what and then there's a desk tray that I don't use right now sitting on the bed because I have no place for it. I'm probably going to stick that either in the closet behind me, or I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Because, you know what? Actually, I think I do know what I'm going to do with it. Just rearrange some stuff before they get here and put it on the desk, because I plan on closing up my roll top, because I don't want the little one getting into the roll top area and either getting hurt or messing stuff up, losing some stuff. I don't want that. It's not that I don't want him messing with my stuff. It's just I don't want him getting hurt or getting in trouble. Trouble with his mom, trouble with me, trouble in general. I know it sounds bad. It sounds almost selfish, but it's not. I'm just taking precautionary measures to keep everybody happy and safe. Yeah. Farfanugan. I forgot what I was going to say all of a sudden. I think I'm just going to go ahead and sign off because my brain is starting to go, we're gone, we're not here no more. Anyhow, I will try to put this video up as soon as I get done, because the sooner I do it, the better it would be. Then I either A, don't forget about it, or B, don't accidentally erase it. Because I had 2 other videos, granted they were a little bit on the longer side, but every so often I go through my phone and do a dump, because I don't have as much memory as my old phone, but this one is a little bit better. Yeah. That, in fact, my old phone, I accidentally dropped one too many times, and it kind of really did a cracking session. Not just the protective screen, but the whole phone started to crack, and I'm like, how did I do that? But anyhow, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments about the video or about some of the content of the video, go ahead and leave them in the comment box, and I will address them as best as I can. I know a lot of you are probably dealing with family due to Christmas and the New Year, which is fully understandable. I don't expect everybody to drop their family life or their personal life or whatever it is you're dealing with just to watch me, because who wants to watch my craziness? Obviously, there's a bunch of you who do, because you're still making comments. Anyhow, if you have not joined my channel and you do like my craziness, go ahead and click the subscribe button, and then a bell will pop up. You can click on that, and YouTube will let you know when I put in a new video. Until next time, you guys have a good night, good day. God bless. Bye.